Good afternoon. Happy Friday, or as my kids would say, happy Friday. And welcome to another LFG Live. This month in May, we have our financial health series. Last week, before we even get into last week, I almost forgot. What are we drinking today? I did have a coconut water a moment ago, and I have a regular water, but I do have my afternoon tea. This time it is a Withered of Chelsea spiced chamomile and apple. Haven't had this one in a while, little fruity variety that I am excited about. So cheers. Hopefully you had your tea, coffee, whatever it is you drink in the afternoon to get ready to spend the next 20 or so minutes with me to talk about your business. So again, May is our financial health month. 2 weeks ago, we talked about your P&L, that if you're not looking at a P&L regularly, you need to start right now. That is your North Star, that is your guiding star, that is your past, that is your present, and that is your future. And when I say that, it means it is a historical document. It looks back on what we have accomplished, but it is also how we can make changes today for success tomorrow. So that is your past, present, and your future. Again, apologies for missing last week. I had a family issue come up, and as everybody who knows me knows, family is my number one. They are my priority for me. And spending time with them when we had a little bit of an urgent situation happening was paramount. But of course, I know everybody understands because family is number one and why we do what we do. So, but we are back. Today we are going to talk about cash flow. So in some small business owners specifically that I talk to, they look at cash flow and profitability the same, and they get a little stuck somewhere along the road, which we're going to talk about in a moment, because they are not the same thing. Three of the documents that you're going to use a ton: P&L, cash flow reporting, and balance sheet, paint a picture, but they are not all the same document by any means, and cash flow is not. So imagine a moment where you have a business owner or CEO looking at their business. Let's call her Lauren, my wife. And Lauren had her best quarter ever. She's looking at her P&L. My God, the rock star numbers. This is amazing. Revenue is up 40%. The numbers look amazing. She's feeling great. Middle of the month, payroll hits. Rent is due on the buildings. Car payment is due. 3 vendor invoices just came in. And holy shit, looking at the bank account going, what just happened? We had an amazing quarter. Did the accountant mess up somewhere? What went wrong? I'm looking at my bank account and it doesn't say what it says we should have based on our P&L reporting. And that is the difference between a P&L reporting and cash flow reporting. In this situation, Lauren didn't do anything wrong. Her business isn't failing. She simply has a cash flow problem. And the hard part of that is if you don't understand your difference between a cash flow and your P&L reporting, you're not going to see it coming. Your P&L is going to be your everything. You're going to assume that means money in the bank, and it does not. That bottom line, your revenue number, does not equate to what you see in the bank. And again, when I'm talking about all this stuff, I'm not an accountant. I am not a financial advisor. I am not speaking of all of this as an accountant. I am speaking to my CEOs, my small business owners, my COOs, my people that are in the business. I'm speaking to you as a business owner or somebody managing the business and how you use these things to run your business. I'm not giving you financial advice. I am not an accountant. So please call your accountant if you need more specifics. I'm talking about how to use these documents and use these tools to make day-to-day decisions to run your business, which is just what we do here at LeMay Fusion Group. But again, in this scenario, Lauren is not failing. Her business is not failing. She just didn't see the difference between a cash flow report and profitability. And once you understand it, you'll look at your business a little bit differently and you'll understand it a little bit differently. So again, your P&L shows you your profit. It shows you your revenue minus your expenses over a period of time. For more details, take a look at what we talked about last week. It tells you whether the business made money or not. It's generally a historical measurement. What happened? Now, last week I did talk about having kind of a modified P&L throughout the month just to keep an eye on certain things that are going on. That's a little more live, but that isn't going to be 100% accurate, right? Because you're really just kind of forecasting where that true P&L is going to be historic. So you're traditionally going to see your P&L right around this month for your activity for last month when you see that finalized document. So that tells you a historical measure of how your business is done, where cash flow is the actual movement of money in and out of your business. Totally different question. Did I make any money? And do I have money? Seem like they should be the same question, but they are not. 2 different questions, 2 different answers, but both absolutely matter in your business. So let's talk about how does this happen? What is a scenario where my P&L might show money, but my cash flow doesn't? So it comes down usually to timing. And the big common one that you'll see is you complete a project. Let's say we're talking to a irrigation company today, and they go complete this giant $20,000 install. You complete the project, you send the invoice, and your P&L, that revenue is recorded. That job is done. That revenue is recorded, that $20,000 job. That is on your P&L. Your client is on a net 30 term. They don't have to pay it quite yet. So that money, it's on your P&L. And I know there's questions in your head going, well, what if they don't pay it? Or what if that's a whole separate conversation we'll have based on, that's more of an accountant question. But there's different ways you're going to handle those funds if they're not paid or whatever that might be. But today we're talking about how that equates to our cash flow and our cash flow reporting. So if that client is on their net 30-day term, so you have this invoice that is going to show on your P&L because the job was complete then and that invoice was posted and sent. But that money's not going to be in your bank yet. That money's going to be in your bank next month. So if you're like, oh, shoot, this is fantastic. I got a $20,000 job. We just finished. I can afford to go out and buy, the down payment on that new piece of equipment I wanted. Well, if you look in your bank account, it's not going to be there, right? That's not going to be in there for another 30 days. So again, your P&L shows you made the money. Your bank account, which is your cash flow, doesn't have that money yet. Your bank account is disagreeing with your P&L. The other side of that, so that's kind of money coming in. The other side of that is money going out. So I know a lot of companies that I've worked with use various pieces of equipment and software to run their business. Actually, my last company I worked with, a lot of our fees every month was besides labor, because we were a virtual remote company, we're software and services. That can be a lot. But as you all know, a lot of services or software offer you discounts to pay for your year up front. So you do that to save money. You're going to pay that today. So let's say it's something crazy. I know that, for example, some of the companies I worked with that I helped them get up their Service Titan account. Fantastic piece of software, very robust, expensive because it is one of the better ones out there, right? But let's say, for example, you're going to have something like that, $500 a month, crazy expense. So $6,000 a year. It's more if you pay it per month, but you're going to get this for $6,000 a year if you pay it up front. Well, that $6,000 is going to come out of your bank account right then. The way your accountant is going to record that, though, on the P&L and on your balance sheets, that $6,000 isn't going to come out 1 month on the P&L because it's forecasted out for that 12 months. That payment, that $6,000 that you paid on your P&L, you were going to see it $500 each month. So your P&L is only going to show $500. What is your bank account showing? Your bank account is showing $6,000 and then $0 for 11 months. Not matching, right? Your P&L and your cash flow report are simply not going to match. And it does make sense when you look at it that way, right? Your P&L is going to show one thing. Your P&L is going to show the profitability for it. Your cash flow is going to show what you actually spent. This is going to happen a lot more frequently when your business is growing, right? Growth itself creates cash flow problems. And a lot of the businesses that I'm working with are in a growth phase. And remember, we talk about growth phase. Doesn't mean you're going from one shop to 10 shops. It can just mean you're cleaning up your business. You're fine-tuning your business. You're going into different products and services. You want to increase your market saturation. Growth can mean a plethora of things, but no matter which type of growth we're talking about, it creates some cash flow issues because you're going to have more clients. You're going to have more upfront costs. You're going to have more people to hire. Hiring has an expense, which we talked about a few months back. More team hours, more supplies, more overhead, more equipment, potentially more trucks, more lawnmowers if that's your business, more tools if that's your business. And you're going to spend all of this, and it's going to be based on what your accountant's going to do. It's going to be put on your P&L. It's going to be put on your balance sheet. That way you're not absorbing all the costs in 1 month from a profitability perspective. But from that cash flow perspective, you're spending that money and the revenue hasn't come in yet. That employee that you just hired, hopefully they're going to make some money quickly. And we have some other sessions on how to make sure that happens and how to ramp them up quickly. But they're not making money on day one, but you're still paying them on day one. So that, again, that cash is going to be going out and it's going to appear in your P&L differently because that's going to be forecasted a little differently. So when we're looking at this, you might also be thinking, well, if my reports don't match, does that mean I'm doing something wrong? Does that mean something broken? It doesn't. It absolutely does not. When we look at a P&L, when we look at cash flow, when we look at a balance sheet, it paints one giant picture together. They don't always feel like they match right away, but they kind of do when you're looking at where the different pieces and plans are going. Again, go back to the two examples I gave you. Money in, money out, how it shows on the P&L versus how it is forecasted out on your cash flow reporting. Now, a lot of businesses are going to do your P&L, your cash flow reporting and all that monthly. Some do it quarterly, which I would never, ever, 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 ever recommend doing. And monthly would be the least that I would suggest doing it. But again, remembering who I'm traditionally working with, small, medium-sized businesses, I'm going to say we want to put something in place to see that weekly, or in the last company I worked with, we almost did it daily. Now we always have to understand that the daily reporting, there's going to be flexibilities, right? There's going to be things that are pending on the bank account that didn't hit, it can't be an exact number just based on the ebbs and flows and movement of your business. But we did that because we were in a rapid growth phase and we literally needed to know every day how much money was in that bank account that we were able to spend and not spend. So for that, it made sense for us to do it daily, but work with your finance team, work with your operations team, whoever is pulling this information. And especially in a growing company, especially in a small, medium-sized business where we need a little tighter controls on that cash, make sure you have at least a weekly reporting in there along with that modified P&L reporting. But at the very least, if you said, Daria, we have enough money in the bank, I don't need to micromanage it daily, weekly, that's fine. At least be sure you're looking at it monthly to truly understand your cash flow versus your P&L versus whatever is left on your balance sheet. Okay. So what we want to make sure we're doing also is looking at things from a historical perspective. We talked about that a little bit during the P&L, that yes, we are going to look every single month at a 1 month P&L. But what did I say 2 weeks ago? I said, don't only look at that month, look at it on a side-by-side view. Most software that you use are going to allow you to pull it on a month-by-month basis, and so you can look at it over the quarters. With the P&L, I always recommend at least looking at the last 2 months along with it, so a 3-month rolling, and then you can look at it quarter over quarter, 6 months over 6 months, year over year, whatever you want to do. But looking at it just as a snapshot of what it is helpful. Looking at it as a snapshot of comparison to what you expected it to be and what it previously was, super helpful. You get to isolate the anomalies and work on those first. Where you outperformed, great. Let's keep pushing on that. We did great here. We did better than we expected. We should probably invest a little more there. Or where did we not perform where we want? We really need to make sure we're addressing that and seeing if there was an issue or we just forecasted wrong. Either way, some actionable item, right? Do the same thing with your cash flow reporting. Build a 13-week rolling cash flow forecast. That sounds crazy, right? Oh my gosh, Jerry, I don't have work for all this. It's not going to be that crazy. It's a simple spreadsheet. You want to make it super simple? I know I can make the craziest spreadsheets you want that do all kinds of fun automations. You don't need any of that. You don't need to pay me to make a crazy spreadsheet for you here. 2 columns, money in, money out for the next 13 weeks. You can include any expected client payments based on your invoice terms. You can include your known expenses, your rough payroll, rent, loan payments, car payments, equipment payments, anything that you know is coming that's going to go in and out of that bank account. Every week, update it. Shouldn't take long at all. 15, 20 minutes at best, because if you've already built this out, some of the things don't really change often, right? But if you happen to add a vehicle in or add a piece of equipment in, you might want to change that. You hire somebody on board. Of course, you're going to change that. But you don't have to make it complicated. That way you have this forecast of what you know is going to be your money in and out. You know what's there to spend. And then you can also isolate the anomalies. Like, shoot, I expected to have $50,000 in the bank at this point, but I only have $5,000. Why? Now, if you weren't looking at it and expecting the $50,000, that $5,000 might not pop out at you as something to look at. But because you're expecting a different number that you didn't see, you're going to spend more time looking. It's going to draw your attention to it better. You're going to know your business better. You're also going to be able to catch errors, flaws, and unfortunately, I hate to say this word, but fraud. If you do have anybody, unfortunately, doing some bad stuff in the business, that's how you're going to catch it as well. So first, do that with the cash flow reporting, the 13 weeks. Second, if you haven't already started doing it from 2 weeks ago, excuse me, it's the middle of May in New Jersey. My whole family's allergies have been killing us. So a little tickle in my throat. But second, if you haven't already started doing it from 2 weeks ago, start reviewing your P&L. But now I'm going to ask you to add in, review your P&L along with your cash flow statement every single month. They're going to tell different parts of the same story, like I mentioned. If you're only reading one, kind of working with half of the info. You're not seeing the full picture. The third, invoice faster, follow up consistently. One of the easiest and biggest ways to improve cash flow in your service businesses is to get your invoices out quickly and chase them when they go unpaid. Now, when I say chase them, I'm saying be a jerk. You're not hunting down your people and being mean about it. I'll admit, most of my bills at my house are on auto pay because I don't want to think about it. I look at them to make sure, again, there's no anomalies. I'm all about anomalies. I don't want to look at things consistently unless it's an anomaly. But I do have a handful of bills that aren't auto pay right now. One is my daughter's student loan payment, and it wasn't on auto pay. I don't remember. I for some reason, I just couldn't sign up through the app on her auto pay or to put my auto pay on it. So I had to go in and pay every month. And the 1 month, I slipped my mind. That's it, because I'm so used to all my bills being on auto pay. They sent me a text message. They said, hey, your bill's past due. I went, oh, shit. logged in and paid it. That's it. They weren't mean. They weren't nasty. They just reminded me. So if you don't have something in place to remind your clients, shame on you. Let's get that in as quickly as possible through your CRM, whatever it might be. That is one of the things that can help you get set up. But every day that invoice sits there, every day that the work goes uninvoiced. That was another one. Business I worked with, 3 years ago or so. Landscaping and irrigation business. I sat down with the owner and I'm looking through. I'm coming on board. I was chief operating officer of that business, and I'm looking through everything. And again, I'm looking at P&L and I'm looking at cash flow, and they are wildly different stories. I mean, this is a true story, wildly different. Like we have all this business that the team said they did, and it was a little different because the team had like handwritten notes of what they did, and that was what we were using on the P&L. But from the handwritten notes of what we did to the invoicing system to our bank account, nothing matched. And I found out that we did a bunch of work. Not only did we not collect the money, we didn't even invoice the clients. So I actually went through in a couple of days span of time and sent a nice email to the clients apologizing for the delay, because at that point it was like 3 months later, apologizing that there was a glitch in the system, blah, blah, blah. But we have a new system in place now. We would be invoicing everybody, and it was over $30,000. That was a significant amount of money that they just simply didn't invoice because they didn't get to it. But that's when we talk about putting processes into place, right? One of the things that we changed is as soon as a technician was done on the job, they got to click a button. I mean, has to be easy. These guys are busy out in the field, especially hot days. They got to click a button and the invoice was sent. Made it super simple for them. And that way, as soon as the job was done, while the people were still there, we were able to send the invoice to the clients and get it paid pretty quickly. And through that CRM, that's where we sent the reminders as well of, hey, you have an outstanding bill. So again, make sure that 1, doing that cash flow reporting 13 weeks out. 2, making sure you're comparing it or looking at it side by side with your P&L. And 3rd, improve through your processes your cash flow by making sure we're invoicing quickly, following up on any past due payments. Because look, without this stuff, it's going to cause stress. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So finances are probably one of the biggest mental health components of us business owners. How do we make sure we know our numbers, know our money, and of course, make more money to keep our business alive and keep our people afloat? But financial stress is a huge one. And understanding these documents, understanding your P&L, understanding your cash flow, having clarity on that is going to greatly increase your ability to know your business and decrease those stress levels that are going to come along with it. So as always, team, I usually leave some takeaways for the day, some things to follow up with, making sure we just get those reports done, making sure the cash flow is done, making sure we're looking at them together, and really figure out, I'd say, look back on your finance world of your business and think, what was the most stressful moment you've had? Not a month where you knew all your business and you just weren't making enough money, because that is stress, but that's more of a sales marketing. But from a financial perspective, was there ever a moment that you went, oh shit, I thought I had this money in the bank, or, oh my gosh, I didn't realize we lost money, or just the not knowing part of the finances? Was there a moment for that? And see if all the things we talked about between this week and 2 weeks ago would help. Understanding your P&L and understanding your cash flow and understanding the difference between them and also how they work together. Of course, as always, if you need any help with this, LeMay Fusion Group is here. We have a bunch of great checklists, forms, business health checklists to help through this, really helping understand the financial systems. And again, while I'm not an accountant, I can certainly help bridge that gap between the work the accountant does and how to use that same information to help drive our day-to-day behaviors to grow our business. So you all know how to reach out to me, LeMayFusionGroup.com, Daria at LeMayFusionGroup.com, 732-508-0580. Always here to support and help. Next week, let me take a peek. We are still in Financial Health Month. So next week is pricing for sustainability. How to price your business to make sure we can keep going. Last week is going to be labor costs and how they're killing your margins if you're not taking a peek at them. And I have an insane story that you're probably not even going to believe of the worst labor margins I've ever seen in an amazing company I went to work with. And then after that will lead us into June, which is probably, I'm not going to say I don't like the finance talk, but it's probably a lot more fun for me, is managing people day to day. Some ways that we work with our teams, how to have conversations with them, how to manage them. Because as we all know, people are the number one asset to our business. We got to take care of them and know how to keep driving those results. So see you guys next week. Until then, finish your drink, take a deep breath, and go lead with intention today. Thanks so much, everyone.